Hello. All right, we're on to the next part of the story. We chose that we were going to wait to cross the river till the river got a little bit lower. So here's where the story picks up. That river looks pretty dangerous, Pa. We should wait a bit till it gets lower, don't you think? Pa nods. It would be a mistake to cross it right now. He turns back to Mr. Whitaker and Mr. Mason. If you need any supplies or food, Mr. Mason, I'm sure we can all pitch in to help out. But we must wait at least a day before crossing the river until it calms down some. Mr. Whitaker's face softens. I agree. I can help with any repairs needed. Mr. Mason throws up his hands. You return to camp and salvage what you can of the flour. You wait a day and see the river getting lower, but it's still too high to cross. After the third day, the river is finally quieted to a level of about 3 feet. You can try and ford it with the wagons as they are, but you remember reading what the trail guide said about the riverbed being especially thick and muddy. You help Pa caulk the wagon with tar and keep the oxen calm. Then you lead the wagon train across the river, down one steep riverbank and back up the other. Pa and Mr. Whitaker have already crossed the river and tied ropes to strong trees to tow the wagons up the limestone incline. It's a long, slow process. 2 of the wagons still lose some supplies to the river, but everyone makes it to the other side safely. We did it! You jump up and down as the dogs race up the riverbank, barking loudly. Annie and Matthew follow close by. Are we almost there? Matthew asks hopefully. Annie laughs. We just started, silly. Matthew frowns. It's only about 6 miles to Hogback Ridge, but the next day you notice the pleasantly flat prairie growing hillier. Soon you find yourselves going up and down rolling hills, dotted with thick trees and golden white stone. Limestone, Pa points to the trail. Looks like this area's covered in it. The oxen begin to struggle going up the steep rocky slopes. One is particularly difficult. Just beyond this incline, an enormous, never-ending hill rises above all the others. Hogback Ridge. Pa looks into the distance. It's also called Devil's Backbone. Matthew gallops up next to you. It's his turn to ride the horse. Race you to the top. You grin. After you. The wagon train pushes for a brief midday respite. As the dogs play with little William Whitaker, you help Ma get some water from a nearby stream and boil it for some coffee. Mr. Mason and his wife, one other wagon train family, come up to your wagon. Dr. Howard, we'd like a word. Mr. Mason tips his hat. You resist rolling your eyes, but Mr. Mason has something to say every single time you stop. Pa turns from milking Trixie. Yes, we've been checking the map, and we're thinking we should avoid going over Devil's Backbone altogether. If we keep to lower ground, avoid the hill country, we can still get to Big Springs without having to cross that monstrous ridge. Look. He places the map on the ground. You frown, studying the map. I'm not sure that's such a good idea, Mr. Mason. We've already climbed high enough that once we cross over Hogback Ridge, we'll be able to stay on top of the hills and avoid going up and down over and over again. You might be right. Then Pa turns to the Masons. Big Springs is still in hill country. You'll wear the oxen out if you go back down to the low ground. Mr. Mason and the others aren't convinced. will wear the oxen out going over Devil's Backbone. She has a point. The oxen still haven't fully recovered from their slog through the river. Should you convince the others you should go over Devil's Backbone, or should you take their suggestion and go down the hill? So do you go over Devil's Backbone? Now we're at the options. Over Devil's Backbone and stay on the trail, or do we go down the hill towards Big Springs? Let me know. So option 1, go over Devil's Backbone and stay on the trail, or option 2, go downhill to Big Springs. All right, I'll post this and you can let me know by noon on Monday, and then we'll find out what we're going to do next.